Hey, and welcome to Brewster Brews. Today we're doing slot machine, Brewdog slot machine. I've made some small adjustments to the recipe based on what hops were available from my local brew shop, and they just recommended other things in place of what they didn't have. It's a pretty basic beer, this one, but it's supposed to be pretty good. I'm going to start with my 4 kilos, chucking them in. My water's all ready to go. I've got my 30 litres in there. It's just come up to 65 degrees. I'm going to start pouring stuff in. So the recipe basically calls for 4 and a bit kilos of pale malt. I thought I had the bit kilo at home, but turns out I didn't. So we're just going to make it 4 kilos today, which should be fine. I think it's 5.2% beer going on paper, but this will just be slightly less. Give you a bit of a stir before your mates join you. Here's my mixture of, there's a bit of Choc malt. I think it's about 125 grams of chocolate malt, 225 of medium crystal, and 600 grams of rye malt. Rye malt I've never used before. Apparently it gives it a bit of sweetness and extra body. I guess we'll find out in a couple of months' time when I try it out for the first time. Alright, so it's been a bit more than an hour. Once the hour was up at 65 degrees, I brought the mash temp up to 72 so I could do a bit of a sparge. I did a bit of reading about the rye malt. It likes to go out at about 72 so you can get all the sugars out of it, otherwise it gets quite thick. And it does look quite thick. So, I was wanting to try this anyways. So what I did was I dumped the wort into my trusty old container just down to the valve mark. That leaves probably about, I don't know, 8 litres or so in the bottom. My grain basket actually sits about this level here, so by leaving a bit in the bottom it gave me enough to pour into my jug, and then from the jug I just do a bit of a sparge. It's a bit rough, it's not like a proper fly sparge or nothing, but see how it goes. Sparging is not something that I'm too familiar with, but I'm going to start doing it more often, only because I'm sick of trying to pull the bag out and juggle it and try not to spill things, and this way I'll just leave it for 5 minutes. Once that's sat for 5, I'll pull the bag out like I normally would. I'll put it on my strainer, this guy here, let him drain a bit more, squeeze all the grains out. Once I'm happy with how much liquid's come out of there and they're pretty dry, I'll be putting the wort back in and bringing it up to the boil for the hops. Hops, we got 20 grams of Magnum and 20 grams of Amarillo. You can see on my dodgy little scroll here. Just because I like to do a 25 litre batch, I don't see the point in doing 20 litres. You get an extra 5 litres for free if you do another 5. I'll put all the recipe in the comments because I've made an absolute mess of this. But anyways, so we've got our 20 and 20. So this is our bittering hops, and they're going to sit in there for 70 minutes. Give them a bit of a tea bag, make sure they all get nice and wet. Oh, it's getting hot. Tuck him in. Whoops, I've just been distracted by my wife. She doesn't like beer, but she loves it when I make this house smell like beer. So my According to the recipe, I have an aroma addition, which is 13 grams of, how do you say it? Ekunat, whatever that means. I'm not even sure what country that's from. I'm going to have to check that out one day. Come on. Chuck one back in. 13 grams of Ekunat. Another 25 of Amarillo. Another 25, that's a lot. So what's 25 and 13? 38. Hope. You can hear my wife rifling through my wine collection. Hopefully she's not getting the good stuff. And Hallertauer. Another 13 grams for aroma. So that'll be 48, 51. 51 in total for all the aroma hops, I should say. So the Hallertauer was 13. So 13, 25 and 13. So in 60 minutes I shall be back here to chuck in the aroma hops for 10. Get the old... we got... oh geez, I always go the long way with these things. 1 hour. Let's get that cracking. And then at flame out, we've got... adult. I put the bittering and the flavour hops in together. All I've just done was the aroma hops. Whoops. All good. We'll see how it turns out. Beer's beer. It all tastes good at the end of the day. Now we're back for our flame out edition of our, what do we got? Ekunat, or whatever you pronounce it. Amarillo and some Hallertauer. There's all the good bits. Good bits. We got 10 minutes on these guys. Everything's bubbling away nicely still. Chuck those in. Do the old tea bag. Try not to burn yourself on the steam. I should really invest in some sort of gloves, like maybe some of those cheap 60-cent gloves from the supermarket. Dishwashing gloves. That would probably do the trick. Probably can't see now because I've been in the steam. So we got 10 minutes and then crap, that was flame out. Alright, flame out. Get these hops out. Slash ball bag. Forgot to sanitize the cube, but better late than never. Here we go. I think we should have about 20 litres out of that batch, going off my dodgy little markings inside the boiler. Hopefully this time the element won't burn like it did last time. I've let it sit for 10 minutes, so it should be sweet. The slot machine has been sitting in the no-till cube now for close to 24 hours. Probably about 20 hours actually. We can see now that it's down to 21 degrees, which is perfect, which is exactly what I want. I'll show you my little trick that I use. I got a little bit of foam, so it's insulated the temperature probe, and it just sits up against the cube like so, so it's accurate. As you can see, it's 17 degrees in the cellar, 17 and a half. It's the wort was sitting at 21, so that is ready to go. So I've sanitized my, what's it called, fermenter. Got my strainer like I normally have. Catch any leftover bits, any dregs. Alright, let that strain for a few minutes. We'll get the top up water ready to go. So I think we've got 20 litres, so we still need another 5 litres in there. Got my sanitised jug full of just normal tap water. We'll pour him in until we get to the 25 litre mark. And it's 23, 24, 25. Perfect. Bit of a stir. Make sure he's all mixed through nicely. Sanitised thingy bob. So you just always put the first bit through and throw it back in. This is why I sanitise the hydrometer, so that I don't waste anything. I don't like to waste if I can avoid it. So I take that first bit out because it's sometimes a false reading. There might be some water still stuck in the, tap, which will give it a false reading. Shake him up a little, make sure all those air bubbles are out so you don't get any other false readings. And how are we looking? We're aiming, what was I aiming for? 1050? Something like that? Ooh, that's a bit low. Once again, I haven't extracted enough sugars out of my mix, which is why I always keep dextrose handy. I just want to clear these bubbles out of the way so I can see a proper, yeah, this is a good one. Not too many bubbles getting in the way of the reading. Okay, so that's going to be 140. I will be bringing that up with the use of dextrose. I'll just pour it in. It's like X amount of grams per point that you're trying to get. I think it's about 80 grams per point, something like that. I did say in another video that it was 100 grams per point, and I was wrong. So yeah, I'll get my 80 grams per point in there. I'll work it out for sure. You can Google that stuff. And then I've got my nicely warmed up USAO 5 yeast sachet that's been sitting in my undies for the last 10 minutes while I get it up to a nice brew temp. The fermenter is sitting at 2021, which is perfect. In the next 24 hours, this should drop down to about the 2019 mark because the cellar is 17 degrees at the moment, so that's going to help drop the temperature. So yeah, thanks for watching. We'll do a bit of a Brewdog slot machine tasting in a few months' time once this guy's gone through all its usual bits and pieces. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.